Hello, and once again, welcome as we continue our exploration of Vienna. And this time we're looking at the coffee culture, their cuisine, and their wine as well. Viking Cruises offers a couple shore excursions that explore the flavors of Vienna. They offer a Hurigan dinner and visit Viennese neighborhood markets. Begin with a visit to some of Vienna's best-known coffee shops, and then take an in-depth look at Vienna's coffee itself. All the coffee shops we're going to visit are in the Altstadt, the Old City, and we begin with a visit to the famous Café Sacher. The cafe is in the Hotel Sacher, which is located directly behind the Opera House. You'll find the cafe on the ground floor, and it's worthwhile to walk in and see the inside. There's also outside dining in the cafe, and the inside is quite elegant and also quite expensive, so be advised. The Hotel Sacher was founded in 1876 and was handed over to Anna Marie Sacher in 1892, and there's a wonderful PBS series about her. The Café Mozart is located in the same building as the Sacher Hotel, and it's also across the street from the Albertina, which makes it a perfect place to go and grab a bite to eat after visiting the museum. The outside cafe is really terrific. Besides coffee, you can get a wonderful meal here, such as Wiener Schnitzel and a little dessert, and it's not nearly as expensive as the Café Sacher. Nearby is the Café Tirolerhof, which is one of our favorite cafes in all of Vienna, and it's just as charming inside as can be and really exudes the ambiance of the Viennese coffee houses. You can also get food here with your coffee, but more importantly, you can get Kaiserschmarrn, which I will talk about later. Now, as we look at images of some of the other coffee houses in the city, I'd like to talk about the coffee house culture. A Viennese coffee house is the defining measure of relaxation. Probably the one defining element is the absence of any pressure to order more or move on. The staff just leaves you in peace until you ask for another drink or the bill. You can sit there for hours just having bought a single coffee. The coffee houses even encourage this behavior with another little tradition. Somewhere inside each one is a rack, a table, or a stand covered in newspapers for you to borrow. This congeniality and leisurely approach to the day turn Vienna's cafes into legendary meeting places for artists, actors, poets, politicians, and revolutionaries. Some of the coffee houses look like the inside of a 19th century palace, others like a relic from the 1950s, but the classic ones have marble tabletops on wrought iron, brass, or wooden stands, upholstered sofas, chairs with open backs, wooden floors, tall ceilings, and walls often embellished with artwork. In Vienna, waiting tables is considered a profession, not just a temporary job, and the waitstaff typically wears white shirts and the men black bow ties and sometimes a vest. Your coffee is always served on a tray and always with water and a spoon upside down over the water. That's because in the old days the nobility wanted the guests to see the hallmark on the back of the spoon to prove it was silver. Next we visit the Demel Coffee House located right near the Hofburg. This is the ultimate in elegance and our favorite coffee shop hands down. You can buy treats at the counter, but I do recommend if you go in, you go upstairs because it's even more elegant upstairs with crystal chandeliers and all manner of things. All the stuff is cooked right here on the kitchen, and they're just marvelous treats. And then you can get something to take home. Now, there's one last place I want to mention, and that's in the Kunsthistorisches Museum. There is a coffee shop upstairs in the rotunda that just gives you marvelous views of the rotunda, and it gives you a great place to have a break from touring all the artwork. Now I want to take a minute and go into a little bit of the history of the Viennese coffee. In 1683, the Habsburgs defeated the Ottomans, the Turks, and they left behind bags of coffee. Well, the Habsburg found this coffee and thought it was feed for the camel. Well, this very enterprising guy, Francis Kolzicki, was a spy and had infiltrated the Turkish army on behalf of the Habsburgs. and he knew exactly what the beans were, so he asked for them and started the very first coffee shop in 1683. This origin of the coffee is even reflected in the Julius Meinl logo with the fez on top of the young man's head. Now I want to take a minute and give you an overview of the different kinds of coffee available, and I will use the menu from the Aida Cafe to show you. First up is the Verlängerter, which is just mocha coffee diluted with hot water. On the left side is the Melange, which has the mocha, hot milk, Milkschaum, which is the foam of the milk, and Schlagobers, which is whipped cream. Next, we have Wiener Eiskaffee, and ice doesn't mean ice, it means ice cream, so you get the mocha, vanilla ice cream, and whipped cream on top. The Mozart Cafe is quite a concoction, with mocha, hot chocolate, Mozart liqueur, and Schlagobers, which is whipped cream. Next, you have the mocha or the Doppler mocha, which is essentially espresso or double espresso. You can have a fiacre, which is essentially mocha, rum, whipped cream with a cherry on top. Or you can have Einspanner, which is simply mocha with whipped cream on top. Next up is the Kapuziner, which is essentially mocha with cream on top, or the Consul, which just has whipped cream. I like the Franziskaner, which is mocha, hot milk, and whipped cream, or you can do the Biedermeier, which is mocha, apricot liqueur, and whipped cream. If you prefer to mix it yourself, you can get a double mocha or a mocha with whipped cream and cream on the side. Finally, there is Milchkaffee, which is coffee mixed with hot milk. Then there is the Melange, which is not mixed but layered. I will post a link in the description below where you can download a PDF version of the Aida menu. So now we'll find something to go with your coffee, and that's some of the sweet treats and confections that you can find in the city. We'll go back to the Hotel Sacher for our exploration, but it's before the Hotel Sacher was completed. In 1832, an apprentice chef, Franz Sacher, created what is now known today as the Sachertorte. He also had a son, Edward Sacher, who started the Sacher Hotel. The Sachertorte is a fairly simple recipe. 2 layers of chocolate sponge cake. Each layer is coated with apricot jam, and it is topped off with a dark chocolate icing. Now you can find Sachertorte all over the city, but there's only one genuine Sachertorte, and it says Hotel Sacher on the label. And this quickly shows it's the original from 1832. As I said, you can find Sachertorte all over the city, but none of them are allowed to put that distinctive stamp on the top of it. Next, I want to introduce you to my favorite, Kaiserschmarrn. Kaiser, of course, is the emperor, and Schmarrn is a mess. According to legend, it was created as a simple pancake for the emperor, but when it actually fell apart during cooking, the chef added raisins, nuts, and powdered sugar to disguise the mistake, and the emperor loved it. It is now served often with applesauce or a fruit compote. While it is primarily a dessert, it can be enjoyed as a main course or a hearty breakfast. If that is too much for you, I recommend an apple strudel or a Gugelhupf, which is primarily a breakfast treat. Let me show you where you can find other sweet treats, the first of which is the Café Aida, which is located on Stephansplatz. Aida is what's called a café konditorei, or a confectionery. Aida is not your typical coffee house. It's much simpler and looks more like a chain store, but boy are the desserts good, and we made many a stop in Aida after a show, or we're just walking around the Graben. Now there's something else you'll see all over Vienna, and that's Mozart Kugeln. These originated in the 1800s in Salzburg, but stores for these are all over the city. Mozart Kugel consists of a core of marzipan and pistachio. It's surrounded by a layer of nougat and coated in dark chocolate. All right, enough of the sweets. Several of the Viking cruises offer an opportunity to attend a Heurigen dinner on the outskirts of Vienna in the little town of Grinzing. Years ago, this was in the countryside of Vienna, near the Vienna woods, but now it's accessible by city tram. The Viking tour takes you directly from the ship to Grinzing, but if you want to go on your own, you can catch the number 38 train, which takes you up right into the heart of Grinzing. Now here there are many Heurigers, and it's a type of Austrian wine tavern where the local winemakers serve their own wines along with simple traditional Austrian dishes. The term Heuriger comes from the German word Heurig, meaning this year's, referring to the practice of serving this year's wine. On the outside, these Heuergers don't look like much, but inside they're wonderful homey places that you should enjoy. Also, Grinzing looks really great at night if you decide to come up here in the evening. So now it's all about the wine, and we'll talk a little bit about the Heuerger vine. And the vineyards, as you can see, are very close to the city, and this offers you the opportunity to sample some of the local varieties. The most common wine here is the Wiener Gemischter Satz. This is about 39% of the production. It includes many of the grapes shown here, not necessarily all of them. Number 2 is an Austrian grape called the Gruner Veltliner, and it counts for about 16%. It is an acidic and fairly dry white wine with many citrus flavors in it. Next is Riesling, which is often thought of as a German wine, but it's grown here as well. It has characteristics similar to the Gruner Veltliner, but it has a more fruity taste. The only red wine in the top is the Zweigelt, which was created by a man named Zweigelt in 1922. These wines are known for their pronounced fruitiness with flavors of cherry, raspberry, and red currant. So let's bring it all together by visiting a Heuerger and enjoy some great wine and great food. Most Heuergen are housed in centuries-old buildings and have a great deal of historical significance. Many of them have communal tables where you'll be seated with other guests, but you get to meet people. And often they will have a wine cellar basement in which you can eat or look at the bottles that are empty. You may even be serenaded by local musicians. Many of the Heuerger serve buffet meals, or you go up to a glass case and point to what you want, and it will be plated and delivered to your table. The food menu complements the wine offerings with dishes that showcase all the flavors of Austrian cuisine, often using seasonal and locally sourced ingredients. The charcuterie trays are really awesome, and they can make a meal all in themselves. But the meals are hearty. Lots of potatoes, lots of pork, sauerkraut, just real traditional ingredients, including Blutwurst, and I guarantee you will not go back to your hotel or the ship hungry. Well, that does it for Grinzing and the Heuerger, but now it's time to take a quick look and one other walking tour, and that's through the Naschmarkt. This is a very large open-air market not far from Karlsplatz and the Secession Museum. It is an outdoor market situated between two very busy thoroughfares. In this overhead shot on a very rainy day, you can see the market itself and in the distance the Secession Museum. Now, this isn't like your typical Saturday market in other cities. This is a permanent installation. It's open all the time. And you can get just about anything you want here. Candies, fish, and on your walking tour, you'll get to sample many things from the vendors in the stalls. This is also a good place to sit down and have a bite to eat. Well, that about finishes it up for this video. If you enjoyed it, please take a minute to like and subscribe. I really appreciate it. Thanks.